Back to Israel's election campaign coming quickly upon us on March 23rd. Now, over the course of the election, we brought you one-on-one interviews with most of the party leaders. But at I-24 News, we also feel we should give parliamentary candidates from different factions the chance to square off in our studio. And joining us now are three from parties that you could say span the ideological spectrum. To my left, though perhaps he shouldn't be, SIMCHA ROTHMAN, parliamentary candidate for the religious Zionist party, which the name says it all. Some would say a right party or a far-right party.
Right-wing.
Or some might say far right. We have Jeremy Saltman, parliamentary candidate for the Yamina party of Naftali Bennett, Yamina being right, of course, and Rabbi GILAD KARIV, parliamentary candidate of the center-left Labour Party, of course, the founding party, some would say, of Israel. And gentlemen, we are certainly going to dig down into some of the issues here, but let's start with one that many people feel is really the dominant issue of this campaign, and that is whether Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu deserves another term as Prime Minister. And if not, who does? Who should be? Simcha, I'm going to start with you. Does Prime Minister Netanyahu deserve another term as Prime Minister of Israel?
As a good politician, I would say that's not the question.
But that is the question.
But I will tell you, it's not the question because the elections, sadly, many of the other candidates and parties say, we care about who will be the prime minister. We care about what will be in the coalition. Because Benjamin Netanyahu is the prime minister for many, many years now. But the different coalitions that he had make different governments. The government that you have left-wing parties in it is not the same government. Doesn't matter who the prime minister is. That's why our commitment is right-wing government. We know numbers, we know how to count, and we know that you can't have a right-wing government without the Likud, and the head of the Likud is Benjamin Netanyahu. But we don't make our campaign, we don't make our claim about who will be prime minister. We don't have a political candidate to be a prime minister, and we don't put any importance to the question who will be the prime minister.
But I am asking you that question. Does Prime Minister Netanyahu deserve another term as prime minister?
If you know how to build a right-wing government, that the prime minister will not be Benjamin Netanyahu, please show me, and I will say yes. It's not about who will be the prime minister. You can ask it in so many ways. It's not about who will be the prime minister. It's a question, do you form a right-wing government? We will not compromise on the right-wing government because some people want to replace Benjamin Netanyahu.
Gilad KARIV, let me ask you, does Prime Minister Netanyahu deserve another term as prime minister?
Definitely not. Because the only reason we are adding a fourth round of elections is the fact that Prime Minister didn't meet its political commitments to its partners. Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing everything he can in order to escape the criminal procedures that he is facing. And Prime Minister Netanyahu is willing to sell all the central and important interests of the Israeli society in exchange to immunity, including building a political alliance and covenant with the most extreme forces in the Israeli society. And that is why the top priority of the Labour Party and many other parties from the left side of the map, but also from the right side of the map, is to end Netanyahu's term as the prime minister. We will be able to build a wide coalition, a unity government with parties from left and right in order to enable the Israeli society truly to overcome the pandemic and to change the political and social discourse that was presented by Benjamin Netanyahu in the last few years, which was a destructive political discourse.
Okay, Jeremy, does Prime Minister Netanyahu deserve another term as Prime Minister of Israel?
After 15 years as Prime Minister and the last 12 consecutively, it's time to say thank you, Bibi, but it's time to step down and give the reins to someone else. Look, we tried in the previous 3 elections for the center-left to replace Bibi. It didn't work. You want to replace Bibi, it needs to happen from the right. It's a simple equation. Over 80 MKs, doesn't matter the poll you're looking at, are on the right side of the map. And if we're looking at, how you go ahead and do that math when it comes to the day after the election, There are three groups here. There is the group that Simcha's party is a part of, which is the only Bibi bloc. That's all they care about. And then, of course, GILAD is in the anybody but Bibi bloc. But when it comes down to it is their candidate Lapid and their candidate Netanyahu want you to think that it's a binary choice, that it is either or. The thing is, this is a three-person race. The only person who can reach into both blocs to be able to form a coalition after going through three elections of neither bloc being able to figure it out is Naftali Bennett and Yamina.
Okay, Simcha, you got a chance to respond because he's directly contradicting what you're saying.
Yeah, first he says...
Look, if you want to nominate Bennett, we'll take it.
So first he says, for what I said, I did not say only Bibi, I said only right-wing. But what he said...
No, you said only Netanyahu could form a right-wing government. Your exact word, you said if you know anybody else who could form a right-wing government, you said that. He said Naftali Bennett.
But he said Naftali Bennett, but he says I'm going to build a government with him and with GILAD KARIV from there. You said left in the beginning. I don't know why I am far right and he's left. No, he's not center left. He's far left. In his party, there is number 7 who says you need to evacuate. I will answer, please. You need to evacuate Zichron Yaakov and send the residents to USA.
We'll get to that point. I'm asking you about Benjamin. I'm asking about Benjamin Netanyahu.
They are partners.
I understand.
So I'm saying, if that's a possibility, then yes. If you say you can form a government with two parties, that one is called Yamina, is right wing, and one is a far left party, and they can form a government, it won't be a right wing government. We will not be part of it. If Naftali Bennett was even remotely able to form a right-wing government, okay, we will talk about it. But it's not a possibility. And he says, and rightfully so, he says, I'm not going to do so. I'm going to form a unity, also talking about unity government. I'm going to put in my government, right-wing government, I'm going to put Avodah and Yesh Atid with or left-wing parties. It won't be a right-wing government. So it's not really a third option. There is only one option for right-wing, and there are other options to say we don't like Netanyahu and we'll replace him.
Gentleman who wants to respond.
I just find that funny because it's as if Amir Peretz isn't sitting right now in the government, as if Benny Gantz isn't sitting right now.
That's why I don't say vote for Netanyahu. That's why I say don't say vote for Netanyahu. That's why we don't sit in the government now.
Simcha, you said that what matters the most to you is a right-wing government, and I want to tell you something, Simcha. If that was true, you would say here that you're not only backing Netanyahu, that if Bennett has the math, that you commit to
I said exactly that.
No,
I said exactly that.
I
said I don't see the math. No. I said exactly that. I said if you show me...
You want to talk about number 7 on his list, we can talk about number 6 on your list. That isn't what the question is.
If you show me a possibility...
is about forming the next government.
If you show me a possibility of a right-wing government headed by Naftali Bennett, not left-wing government, right-wing government headed by Naftali Bennett, we will talk about it.
Gentlemen,
the numbers do not add up.
We have a minute before break. I think GILAD has a chance to respond.
It's amazing to see how the right-wing parties in Israel strongly believe that they represent the majority, per se. But the fact is that in the last 3 rounds, the right-wing parties didn't succeed to build a right-wing government.
No.
And the reason... Yes, and the reason is because in the end, the Israeli public is split. And there is no majority for a full right-wing government. We are, sincere and transparent enough in order to admit that right now there is no majority to a central left government, and probably we will have to build a unity government in order really to enable the Israeli society to recover from this crisis. But this internal debate in the Israeli far right, as if they have a majority for Bennett or for Bibi supported by Bezalel Smotrich, they don't have the 61.
I already see a split within this coalition.
They don't have a 61
coalition. The problem with this kind of coalition the split in the coalition will be a daily issue. It won't be.
Gentlemen, we have to go to break. And when we come back, we're going